The sun had barely risen over the horizon of Elysia when alarms blared throughout the Galactic Empire's frontier outpost, shattering the morning calm with urgent warnings of incoming enemy ships. The sky, once serene and blue, was now crowded, with dark silhouettes of small, fast-moving vessels that darted with uncanny precision toward the planet's surface. Commander Varric stood on the observation deck, his eyes narrowing as he watched the unexpected assault unfold before him. The Imperial fleet assigned to this sector had been delayed due to logistical problems, leaving the outpost vulnerable. Yet, these human ships, few in number but swift and daring, were attacking with a ferocity no one had anticipated. As explosions lit up the space around Elysia, the outpost defense systems struggled to track the erratic movements of the attackers. The humans seemed to know exactly where to strike, targeting power grids and communication arrays with pinpoint accuracy, crippling the base's ability to call for help. Varric's voice was steady but urgent as he ordered reinforcements to prepare for battle, confident that the main Imperial fleet would arrive soon and crush this audacious attack. However, time stretched on agonizingly with no sign of reinforcements, and the small human force continued to advance deeper into the outpost's defenses. Each explosion echoed like a warning shot, a message that this was no ordinary skirmish. Within the command center, officers exchanged worried glances as reports came in of critical systems going offline one by one. Sensors detected human soldiers, deploying swiftly across the surface, moving with a strange blend of coordination and unpredictability. Despite their numbers, the humans fought with a determination that seemed almost reckless, pressing forward even as their ships took heavy damage. Varric could feel the growing unease in the room, the same unease that gripped him when he realized that these humans were not just rebels. They were a force unlike any the Empire had faced before. Outside, the sky darkened with smoke and fire, as the humans struck at vital infrastructure, cutting off power to entire sections of the outpost. The once confident Imperial gunners grew silent, stunned by the precision and speed of the assault. Then unexpectedly, a transmission came through, a calm, clear voice speaking in the ancient human language, proclaiming, "This is just the beginning. Our main fleet has not even entered the battlefield yet." The message sent a ripple of shock through the command center. If this small task force was already overwhelming the outpost, what could the full human fleet achieve? Varric's mind raced, weighing the possibilities. The Galactic Empire had faced many enemies, but none who fought with such fearless tenacity and tactical brilliance. As the day wore on, the human forces continued their relentless assault, seizing control of key defense towers and communication hubs. Imperial soldiers, though trained and disciplined, found themselves outmaneuvered and outthought at every turn. Varric watched helplessly as the outpost's command network crumbled, the lights flickering and dying like stars going out in a darkening sky. He issued one last order to prepare for evacuation, but even as escape pods launched into the void, the humans pressed their advantage, closing in with a resolve that seemed unstoppable. The battle for Elysia was not just a fight over territory, it was a clash of wills, a test of endurance between a vast empire and a new challenger that refused to back down. And in the quiet moments between the explosions, Varric knew the Empire was witnessing the dawn of something far greater than a rebellion. The humans were here to change the galaxy forever. The once proud and bustling command center aboard the Imperial flagship Dominion now buzzed with a tense urgency that filled every corner of the ship as officers and analysts worked frantically to piece together the fragmented intelligence they had received from the battle-scarred outpost of Elysia. Reports from scouts and sensor arrays painted a grim picture. Despite having vast numbers and superior technology, the Galactic Empire was struggling against a surprisingly small human force that had shown a ruthless efficiency in their attack, dismantling defenses and cutting off communication with a skill that no one had predicted. The intercepted human transmission continued to haunt the minds of the Imperial commanders, its chilling words echoing in the halls. "Our main fleet has not even entered the battlefield yet." This statement was not just a warning. It was a clear indication that what the Empire was facing was only the opening move in a far larger and more dangerous conflict. As intelligence officers sifted through scrambled transmissions and attempted to decrypt human codes, a growing unease settled over the command center. The data was inconsistent. Some sensors picked up fleeting energy signatures that might be cloaked ships entering the system, but others detected nothing at all. It was as if the humans had mastered a form of stealth technology that the Empire had never encountered before. The Imperial strategists struggled to make sense of the scattered information, debating whether the human main fleet was truly en route or if this was some sort of psychological ploy to sow fear and confusion. Commander Varek's failure to hold Elysia was now just the first crack in the Empire's facade of control, and the higher echelons of the High Command knew that if the humans were indeed sending a larger fleet, the entire galactic balance could be at risk. Orders went out to reinforce the border systems and prepare for what might come, but even as fleets moved into position, the question remained: how many ships did humanity really have hidden beyond the stars? The human fighters who had taken Elysia were hailed as heroes by their commanders, their skill and bravery noted in every report. Yet their leaders remained cautious, knowing that the true test was still ahead. Captain Maya Trent stood on the bridge of the human flagship Resolve, watching the stars streak past in hyperspace as they raced toward the front lines. Her mind was focused and calm, though inside she felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. The surprise assault on Elysia had been a necessary gamble, designed to weaken the Empire's defenses and buy time for the main fleet's arrival. Communications between her task force and the approaching armada were encrypted and secret, ensuring that no Imperial sensors could intercept the full scale of their strength. Yet, even within their ranks, there was an awareness of the risks. If the Empire discovered the true size of the human fleet too soon, they might launch a preemptive strike that could devastate the vulnerable human forces. Back on the Imperial side, rumors began to spread among the lower ranks of the fleet. Whispers of a human armada so vast it could crush entire worlds, led by a people who refused to be intimidated or controlled. These stories grew in the shadowed corners of mess halls and briefing rooms, fueling both fear and disbelief. The official stance remained one of confidence, but even the most senior commanders found it difficult to dismiss the growing evidence that humanity had something far greater than anyone had imagined. As the hours turned to days, the human fleet crept ever closer, cloaked in the darkness between stars, preparing to strike when the moment was right. The Empire's forces held their ground, trying to repair damaged outposts and regroup for the inevitable clash, but every sensor ping and every transmission reminded them that the war they thought they understood was evolving into a fight against an enemy who wielded not just advanced technology, but an indomitable spirit and tactical genius that defied expectations. And as the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next move, the question on everyone's mind was the same. When would the humans unleash their full power, and could the Empire survive it? In the quiet moments after the fierce battle for Elysia, the human task force gathered on the command deck of the flagship Resolve, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and determination as they prepared for what lay ahead. Captain Maya Trent stood by the viewport, her eyes scanning the vast darkness of space beyond, where the stars seemed to hold secrets yet to be revealed. The small victory had come at a cost, but it had also shown the Empire that humans were no easy target. The main fleet was still en route, hidden somewhere in the folds of hyperspace, and their arrival was both a promise and a threat that weighed heavily on everyone's minds. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, repairing battle damage, resupplying weapons, and running drills to sharpen their skills for the coming storm. Despite their calm exterior, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Each person knew that the battle for Elysia was only the opening act in a conflict that could decide the fate of the galaxy. Maya called her senior officers together to review the latest intelligence reports, which painted a complex picture. The Empire's fleets were regrouping, sending reinforcements to the borders and increasing patrols in an attempt to detect the human main fleet's approach. But their sensors had failed to locate the hidden armada, and the humans had used stealth technology to remain invisible. The questions were many, and the answers few. How many ships made up the main fleet? What strategies would they use? And, most importantly, when would they strike? As the hours ticked by, Captain Trent knew that timing was everything. Launching too early would expose their full strength before they were ready, but waiting too long risked giving the Empire a chance to fortify and counterattack. Meanwhile, back on the Empire's side, anxiety was spreading among the ranks. Imperial officers debated fiercely over the data, struggling to understand the human tactics and the mysterious technology that seemed to give them the edge. Rumors circulated about the humans' ability to coordinate attacks across vast distances with near-instant communication and their uncanny ability to adapt quickly to changing battle conditions. Some in the high command refused to believe the humans could pose such a threat, insisting that the Empire's might would ultimately prevail. But others, more cautious and experienced, warned that underestimating humanity would be a grave mistake. As preparations continued, spies and scouts operated in the shadows, desperately trying to gather more information about the human fleet's size and intentions. The risk of discovery loomed over every mission, and the slightest mistake could mean disaster. Meanwhile, the human fleet's engineers worked tirelessly, improving shields, upgrading weapons, and enhancing stealth systems. Maya walked among her crew, speaking words of encouragement, reminding them that their fight was for freedom and survival, not just for themselves, but for every world under threat from the Empire's tyranny. In these quiet moments before the storm, every decision carried weight, every movement had meaning. The calm was fragile, held together by discipline and hope, yet beneath it all was the growing certainty that the next battle would change everything. And when the human main fleet finally emerged from the shadows to face the Empire, it would be a force that none could ignore. The endless blackness of space suddenly erupted into a dazzling display of light and movement as the human main fleet dropped out of hyperspace just beyond the orbit of Elysia. A massive armada stretching as far as the eye could see, ships of all sizes bristling with weapons and armor, unlike anything the Galactic Empire had faced before. Captain Maya Trent stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolve, her eyes wide with a mix of pride and determination as she watched the coordinated deployment of fighters, cruisers, and capital ships falling into battle formations with flawless precision. The Imperial fleet, still regrouping and trying to repair the damage from the initial assault, had barely caught their breath when the human ships unleashed a devastating volley of plasma and missile fire that tore through their defenses like a storm. On the command deck of the Imperial flagship Dominion, Commander Varick's confident demeanor shattered as reports poured in of entire squadrons being destroyed in minutes, their shields failing under the relentless assault. The Empire's commanders scrambled to respond, but the humans fought with a tactical brilliance and unity that made every counterattack falter. The skies above Elysia became a chaotic battlefield filled with blazing trails of energy and exploding warships, a dance of destruction that seemed to shift and change with every passing second. Human pilots communicated with flawless coordination, executing maneuvers that kept Imperial forces off balance, striking weak points, and retreating before counterattacks could be organized. The size and power of the human fleet were overwhelming, but it was their spirit, their refusal to yield even when outnumbered, that truly unnerved the Empire's forces. Ground troops, reinforced by the fleet, landed swiftly on Elysia's surface, reclaiming lost territory and cutting off Imperial supply lines with surgical precision. The battle was no longer just about territory. It was a demonstration of humanity's will to fight, innovate, and survive against all odds. As explosions rocked the outpost and the Imperial forces found themselves pushed back, Commander Varric felt the crushing weight of defeat settle over him. Every report brought news of lost ships and fallen soldiers, the Empire's once unshakable control slipping through his fingers like sand. The High Command sent urgent messages ordering reinforcements, but the humans anticipated every move, countering each attempt with unmatched agility. Meanwhile, on the human flagship, Maya coordinated the attack with calm authority, her mind sharp and focused, despite the chaos around her. She knew this battle was a turning point, not just for the war, but for the future of all who lived under the Empire's shadow. The fleet's arrival was more than a show of force. It was a statement that humanity would no longer be pushed aside or underestimated. As night fell over Elysia, the battle raged on, a fierce clash of firepower and will that lit the darkness with the promise of change. The Empire's main fleet had finally entered the battlefield, but it was the humans who held the advantage, their surprise and strength rewriting the rules of war. And in the heart of the conflict, Captain Maya Trent knew that this was just the beginning of a fight that would decide the fate of the galaxy. As the dust settled over the shattered remains of the once mighty Imperial fleet, the human forces pressed forward with relentless determination, their momentum turning the tide of a war that had seemed impossible to win just days before. Captain Maya Trent stood at the helm of the flagship Resolve, watching the battlefield with sharp eyes. That missed nothing. The skies above Elysia were no longer a scene of desperate defense, but a stage where the humans took control, pushing the Empire's war machines back through a series of well-planned strikes that tore at their lines and morale. The once unstoppable Imperial fleets now found themselves on the defensive, scrambling to protect key systems and maintain control over territories that had long been assumed safe. Maya's strategies combined bold aggression with careful calculation. Every move was designed to cut off supply routes, disrupt communications, and inspire hope among the oppressed colonies rallying behind humanity's cause. Reports flooded in from liberated worlds. Once silent under the Empire's rule, these planets now echoed with cheers, their people rising to fight alongside the humans who had come to save them. The Imperial command centers, once fortified and secure, became targets for daring raids led by Maya herself. Her squadron, moving swiftly through asteroid fields and debris, struck at the heart of the Empire's power, disabling command nodes and crippling their ability to coordinate a response. Each victory sent waves of shock through the Imperial forces, who struggled to keep pace with the human fleet's unpredictable tactics and fierce resolve. The Empire's propaganda machine faltered as news of defeats and uprisings spread like wildfire. Soldiers who once believed in the Empire's invincibility now questioned their leaders, and some even defected, drawn by the promise of freedom and a new future. Within the human fleet, morale soared. The camaraderie between ships and crews grew stronger with each battle won, forging a unity that was as powerful as any weapon. Maya's leadership inspired not just respect, but fierce loyalty. Her calm in the storm, a beacon for those who followed her into the fray. Yet, despite these successes, the war was far from over. The Empire, battered but not broken, prepared for one final desperate push to reclaim lost ground and crush the human rebellion before it could spread further. Intelligence warned of secret weapons being deployed and the looming threat of reinforcements from distant sectors. Maya and her commanders knew that their greatest challenge was still ahead. But the tide had turned, and with it came a new hope, not just for victory, but for a galaxy freed from oppression. As the stars shone above the battlefield, the clash of fleets continued, but this time the balance had shifted. Humanity's spirit, once underestimated, now burned brighter than ever, lighting a path toward a future where they would no longer be silenced or controlled. The battle for the galaxy was far from finished, but with every victory, the dream of freedom grew closer, fueled by courage, unity, and the unbreakable will to survive. The once unchallenged Galactic Empire now found itself at a crossroads as the remnants of its fleet retreated to the last secure systems, battered and broken, but still clinging to the hope that the galaxy might yet remain under its control. The victory of humanity had been swift and overwhelming, their fleet's power and spirit shattering centuries of imperial dominance and inspiring countless worlds to rise up against their old rulers. Captain Maya Trent stood aboard the flagship, resolve, her gaze steady as she prepared to send the final message that would shape the future of the galaxy. The war had tested everything they believed in, the strength of their technology, the courage of their people, and the unyielding desire for freedom that drove them forward. Now, with the Empire's forces weakened and their control slipping away, the time had come to offer a choice: surrender and join the new order, or face total annihilation. Across the galaxy, transmissions broadcast Maya's words, clear and resolute, promising peace but warning that humanity's resolve would never be broken again. Imperial leaders, faced with mounting pressure from their own people and the undeniable shift in power, opened tentative talks of negotiation. The once proud and arrogant empire now sought terms to save what remained of their influence, knowing that the days of unquestioned rule were over. The negotiations were tense and uncertain, each side wary but understanding that the alternative meant endless war and destruction. Slowly, agreements were forged, new alliances built on respect rather than fear. Humanity emerged not as conquerors, but as leaders determined to rebuild a galaxy torn apart by conflict. As the first joint councils met in the newly established Galactic Alliance, the faces of those who had fought and sacrificed looked toward a future filled with both promise and challenges. Captain Maya Trent, now a symbol of hope and strength, stood at the forefront, her leadership guiding the transition from war to peace. But even in victory, she knew that vigilance was necessary. The scars of battle ran deep, and the path to unity would be long and difficult. Still, the dream of a galaxy where every species could live free and prosper drove them onward. The stars, once dominated by imperial shadows, now shone brighter with the light of countless new beginnings. The era of the Galactic Empire was over, replaced by a new order shaped by courage, cooperation, and the unbreakable human spirit that refused to be silenced. And as the galaxy looked toward the horizon, one thing was certain: humanity had earned its place among the stars, forever changing the course of history.